going on, Vikings fans? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we have the latest on how the Minnesota Vikings are going to use the franchise tag for this upcoming period. Kevin Seifert dropped a bombshell report on how the Vikings front office will use the tag. And then also Justin Jefferson. He was pretty much on a podcast recently recruiting Myles Garrett to the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll share with you guys that quote in the second half of today's show. But before we do so, if you guys could hit that subscribe button and lock us in as your go-to Minnesota Vikings YouTube channel. We just crossed over 52K here on the channel, so shout out to all of you guys who have hit that subscribe button in the past. But if you guys want to stay up to date on everything on your Minnesota Vikings, I got you covered here. A video every single day, sometimes multiple. So hit that subscribe button today. All right, let's just kick it to what Kevin Seifert had to say on how the Vikings will use the franchise tag. So he said this. He says, using the tag on quarterback Sam Darnold would be an expensive way of ensuring his return while avoiding a longer-term commitment that would hinder J.J. McCarthy's eventual ascension. It could also be a way to elicit additional value by way of a trade, but that would require a knowledge that multiple teams will be willing to big. And if you guys don't know, the QB franchise tag right now is supposed to be around $41.32 million. Now, the franchise tag is different from extension because that $41.32 million will be on the books for next season. You can't create void years. You can't push it down the line. It would be 100% on the books for next season. And with the Vikings still having a lot of holes to fill on this roster, do you want to put $41 million of your potential $60, $70 million in cap space just towards Sam Darnold on a one-year deal? I don't think so, and I think it's pretty clear what the Vikings' plan is, and that's to obviously shift to J.J. McCarthy. And hearing this from Kevin Seifert, I think it's almost official that this is J.J. McCarthy's team moving forward. Now, we haven't gotten a for sure, report on, hey, Kevin O'Connell said this is J.J. McCarthy's team. But even the way he was talking on Dan Patrick a couple of weeks ago, he was pretty much insinuating that this is J.J.'s team moving forward. And I think we're just a couple more, reports away from it being officially official that this is J.J.'s team. But I do have some cons on the tag and why I'm not a big fan of the Vikings putting it on Sam Darnold. Number one here, it just limits your free agency spending. Like I was just saying, that $41 million will be on the books for next season, so you wouldn't be able to go big on a Mekhi Becton, on a Trey Smith, or a guy like Milton Williams. And then also, you would just waste a year of JJ's rookie contract. Like, he's got 5 years at that rookie deal, and you would already lost last season due to injury. And if you would bring Darnold back on the tag, that would be wasting year 2 of him on his rookie deal. And also, I think it would create some drama because I'm sure us Vikings fans, like, let's just say hypothetically they do place the tag on Darnold. He starts the first 2 weeks, and let's just say he looks like he did against the Rams and the Lions. We would all be calling for J.J. McCarthy to start, which would create some drama. And I think it would be a disaster. If you tag Darnold, then they had to turn to J.J. because Darnold was playing bad. You pretty much just wasted $41 million of spending. But Seifert had this to say on who else he thinks could get the franchise tag for the Minnesota Vikings, saying, in the end, the Vikings seem more likely to let Darnold sign elsewhere and preserve their tag for a player such as cornerback Byron Murphy Jr., who had a career-high 6 interceptions in 2024 and is hitting his prime at age 27. If nothing else, it would give the Vikings time to sign Murphy to a longer-term deal while keeping him off the market. And that's definitely the biggest pro of the franchise tag is that you just keep him off the market, so it makes more sense for them to put that on Byron Murphy Jr. Now, the cornerback franchise tag is $20.35 million. So Byron Murphy, I've seen reports out there that he could be getting like 16, 17 million, but then some people have him projected as a 20, 21, 22 million dollar per year corner, which I would be a little hesitant to pay Byron Murphy that because this past year, yes, he was great. He was the closer for this defense. I mean, 5 of his 6 interceptions came in the fourth quarter to close out a ball game. But if you guys remember that 2023 season, Murphy was very up and down. I mean, remember that game against the Chargers where Keenan Allen had, 17 receptions for 200-plus yards. Like, it was truly not a good performance for Murphy, but this past season, he definitely was better. But the question is he worth a 3-4 year extension at $21 million per year? So I would much rather prefer the Vikings tag Byron Murphy instead of extending him. Now, would Byron Murphy like that whatsoever? Definitely not. He wants to get paid. He wants more long-term stability. But where the Vikings are at right now, I think it would just make more sense if you're not fully sold on Byron Murphy being a true cornerback one for this team moving forward just place the tag on him. Yes, all of that $20 million would be on the books this season, but with restructures and cutting a couple players, the Vikings could still potentially have $65, $70 million to spend. And plus, this is his contract projection. 3 years, $52 million. Does have an out after year two, with only 34.5 of that being in guaranteed money. So I would much rather have the Vikings, just place the tag on Murphy. But I think it would also be a serious detriment to the team if you just let him walk. Because right now, the Vikings cornerback depth chart, you only have 3 guys, and I'm just putting Murphy on this list because I'm assuming the Vikings are going to attempt to keep him from next season. But let's just say you let Byron Murphy walk. You have UDFA, Dwight McGlothern, and Mekhi Blackman, who's coming off a torn ACL. So if you let Murphy walk, you got to target some other guys in free agency. And one guy we have heard that is being linked to the Vikes is actually DJ Reed. It was Bleacher Report put in an article a couple days ago suggesting that the Vikings could be high on DJ Reed after the Jets game in London. Apparently the Vikings coaching staff was huge fans of DJ Reed. So if they do let Byron Murphy walk, I'm assuming they're going to shift their attention to DJ Reed. And I also think Stephon Gilmore, if he does not retire, this is a guy, you call him in August, you let him kind of play out this entire offseason, let him rest, let him get his body back right. And then when August rolls around, right when training camp and the preseason are getting underway, then I think you call Stephon Gilmore. He can still play, in that rotational cornerback 3 role with Blackman, with McGlothern, and then hopefully you either have DJ Reed or Byron Murphy as that true CB1. Then maybe you draft a guy in the 3rd round. But still, if you let Byron Murphy walk, it makes the cornerback position a huge, huge need for the Minnesota Vikings. But I'll ask you guys this, and then we'll talk about Justin Jefferson recruiting Myles Garrett here in a second. But what would you do with Byron Murphy? Would you, 1, place the franchise tag on him? Give me a T down below. If you would extend him, give me an E down below in the comment section. But if you're probably in the minority on this one and you just want to let him walk, just give me a W down below. Now we'll talk about Justin Jefferson recruiting Myles Garrett here in a second. But before we do so, I've got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, if you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in that promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. After you download the Prize Picks app, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Now, if you guys are trying to make a Timberwolves or a Wild game more interesting during the rest of the hockey and basketball seasons, Prize Picks is the number one way to do so, because even if the game's a blowout, you guys can follow your Prize Picks lineup throughout the entire event. So download the app today. Use that promo code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in promo code CLNS and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. I'll have that link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's video. So check them out. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so Justin Jefferson was actually recruiting Myles Garrett 2 weeks ago at Radio Row during the Super Bowl. He was just on a podcast, and somebody pretty much broke the news to him, be like, hey, Jefferson, what would be your pitch to Myles Garrett? And then Jefferson originally thought he was a free agent, and then he obviously told him, hey, no, he's actually requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. And this is what Jefferson had to say. He says, Myles, you know where to go, brother. Hey, we need 1-2 extra pieces, and you'll fill in that piece. And then he finishes it off by saying, we need you. I appreciate Jefferson getting us free content here at Vikings Now by Chat Sports. But I think we're, unlocking a new character this offseason. GM Justin Jefferson is officially here, and I am all for it. I'm not saying, players need to have huge impact on what, GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is going to do. But if you have one of your blue chippers, the best player on your team, pretty much vocally saying, hey, we need to go get Myles Garrett, he could be one of those missing pieces, it's definitely something that Kwesi has to consider here. And I actually do think the Vikings are an interesting spot in terms of what they can give up to trade for Myles Garrett. Now, this is a trade idea we've been throwing out there where you are going to include former first-round pick Dallas Turner. And I will say I wouldn't love moving off Turner because I think he could have kind of a Nakobe Dean resurgence in his sophomore campaign as Dean for the Eagles during his rookie year. He was getting around 200, 300 snaps during that season. Then this past year with the Eagles, he was awesome, but the Vikings would have to include that first-round pick, pick number 24, and a third-round pick. Now, this would leave the Vikings with just 2 picks in this year's draft, honestly just 2 fifth-round picks, which you would not love to do at all, but you would be landing Myles Garrett. Now, Garrett, over the last 4 seasons, he's had 14-plus sacks, 17-plus TFLs in each of the last 4 years. He's been healthy. I think this would be, listen, you would be giving up a lot, but I almost think it would be a low-risk move because Garrett, I promise you, next season for the Vikings, he would be one of the best players on this team, if not the best player. Like, he would be challenging Jefferson for that spot. And could you imagine you have this trio of edge rushers where you could maybe move Van Ginkel into more of a linebacker, outside linebacker hybrid role? Then you would also have Myles Garrett and Jonathan Grenard being your 2 edge rushers. Like, that's why when I think of the idea of the Vikings trading for Myles Garrett, the thing I love the most about it is that it would give the Vikings an unsolvable problem on defense. And what do I mean by that? Because every single week when you're scouting whatever a teammate may be, if the Vikings would add Garrett, every team would be saying, how are we going to slow down Jonathan Grenard, Myles Garrett, and Andrew Van Ginkel? I don't think you have a solution to that problem. And I think that's a great spot to be in as an NFL team. If you have such a dominant position group, it almost has that problem be unsolvable for those teams that are trying to play you that week, very similar to the Eagles. Like, their defensive line was so good this past season. No matter what you did, you could not slow it down. I think the Vikings would have that similar feel if it is Myles Garrett, Jonathan Grenard, and Andrew Van Ginkel. But you guys let me know if you guys would accept this trade. Give me an A for accept or give me a D for decline down below in the comment section. Vikings get Myles Garrett, but they are giving up former first-round pick Dallas Turner, their first this season and their third for this season as well. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below. Now, if you guys also want to hit me up on Twitter, that's the handle at the bottom of your screen right now. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. As always, Skol Vikes.